Hey guys, and welcome back. I'm Rachel O'Leary, and I look like a crazy person today because I just walked downstairs and realized I've had enough with one of my planted tanks. Does this ever happen to you guys? I bought plants a long time ago and planted up a 55-gallon. I call it my Impulsive aquascape. It's the one that houses my longfin blue-eye ancestris, as well as where I moved all of my daisies, rice fish, and my CPDs. And the problem is that the carpeting plant I put in there, which was supposed to be Sagittaria subulata or dwarf sag, is clearly not, because it's over 6 inches tall, and it makes me mad every time I walk down here. So today, as I was moving the goldfish down, stay tuned for an update on them, I decided I'd had enough. I hadn't planned on filming today, which is why I look so delightful, but I came home from Aquatic Experience with a ton of really awesome plants to try and decided to just tear it apart because enough is enough. Let me show you what I've done. So this is my 55-gallon Impulsive aquascape that I set up quite a long time ago for you guys using Tropica plants. And it's really grown in, but the thing that I'm not happy about is the Sagittaria. It was supposed to be subulata, which stays really short. But it's obvious that this is not subulata. It has flowered repeatedly, and I've been told that it is most definitively not the plant I wanted. Plus, I just don't like how it looks. And the whole thing about our aquariums is we're the one that has to look at them, so we have to like it. So today I'm going to get in here and hack back this Hygrophila siamensis, pull out the dwarf sag that's not really dwarf sag, and replace it with a plant I've never used before. So let's get started. Now, I apologize for the bar and frame, but I have to, ooh, this is going to make a mess. This is kind of interesting. It's going to come up all as a mat. Kind of neat that you can see how it grows through these runners. I mean, it's a wonderful plant, it's just not what I wanted. And I may leave some in the back, but I wanted something shorter in the front here. So these are the plants I pulled out of that 55-gallon. It's a whole ton of that sag and a lot of the Hygrophila siamensis, whatever it is. As we look at the aquarium, I've dropped the water by about half. I've trimmed back quite a lot of this mat. I'm going to be planting a few things just to try. As I mentioned in an earlier video, I was at Aquatic Experience this last weekend, and my dear friend Esther has a company called Aquaflora, and they're making Ecoscape in Vitro, which will be available sometime next year. And I came home with a whole bunch of it. And I have a ton of Stargine, which is really a pretty easy plant. Now this will mean more trimming than I generally like to do, but I'm okay with that. I think it's going to add a nice contrast in there, and I'm going to mix it with some Gradiola viscodula, which is actually a U.S. native. It's a carpeting plant that's slow growing but pretty easy to use and easy to trim. So I'm going to mix those two together in this section over here that needs to be replanted. Then I'll fill up the tank, probably do another water change, and we'll take a look. So I'm just filling up a little bucket with water to rinse the gel off the in vitro plants. They're planted in like an agar base and grown in a lab so that they're nice and sterile, no pests, no snails, no algae. They are baby plants, meaning they're not always as sturdy as the potted variety, but they're almost always in impeccable health. And you get quite a lot of portion. Each one of these little cups, it costs about 10 bucks. And I'll show you in a second how much plant it is. But again, you just want to rinse off the gel, mainly because there's nutrients in it that you don't want to add to the aquarium. This is 1/3 of 1 cup. I'll break it into little sections, take my pincettes and plant. Now I'm planting into an inert substrate. This is Sarah anthracite, which I particularly like the looks of, though it does really nothing for the plants. So at some point I'm probably going to have to start supplementing this aquarium with fertilizers. Now I've never worked with this Gradiola viscodula, but I did a little poking around online, and apparently it's some hot new thing, so I figure why not try it. I like the texture of it. We'll see if it survives my neglect. I think neglect is a strong word, but my lack of CO2 and fertilizers. And again, I'm breaking this into plugs because all of these will spread through their roots, so you want to leave a little bit of space in between them. Now apparently this one's a pretty slow grower, so we'll see what happens. But I mean, I've spent years growing out a crypt carpet, so that I actually prefer slow growing. I'm just going to go ahead and continue to do that until I'm done. So as you can see, I just did mixed groupings. We'll see what happens, you know. This hygrophila is going to continue to fill in across the back again. I'm going to go ahead and fill this aquarium up, and I need to pull out some of the moss and just take a look around. I used 5 cups of plant to do that, which I know $50 sounds like a lot, but the quality and the healthy root structure means that they come back really quickly and grow really quickly. I'm refilling the tank opposite from where I just planted so that the plants don't get disrupted. So this is immediately upon refilling. As you can see, it's pretty stirred up still. So we'll just wait a few weeks and see what happens with all these new plants I just added, and we'll take a look back here in a few minutes at the fish inside when everything clears up. So as you can see, the goldfish are doing just fine. They're in a bucket of the water from their tub, and I've also moved the tub with some of its water and floating plants down here into the fish room. And I've placed it over in this corner because I keep this part of the fish room not quite as warm, and I have air ports available in order to aerate their tub. Now ideally I would put them into an aquarium so I can see them, but I just don't have one of an appropriate size. even though these guys are really tiny at this point still, I really just don't want to put them in a 10 or 20 gallon aquarium because I know their capacity for growth is so much more than that. Originally I had considered putting them into the greenhouse, but I just don't trust heaters enough to do so, and I'm concerned. I don't want them to freeze. So they'll be down here on the floor of the fish room, in the coolest section of the fish room, for this winter until I can move them out again next spring. So I've gone ahead and I've put these guys into a specimen container just so we can take a good look at them. They certainly are adorable. And I expect they'll grow a lot being in here in the fish room, so I'm hopeful to have a better plan for them for next year, so that they can live out their best fishy life with enough dilution and a good diet to really be around for many years to come to entertain us. But for now, I will gradually fill up their tub, add some aeration, and put them in there for now. Our little miracle fish. So it's been about 20 minutes, and you can see it still has a fair amount of clearing to do, so I'll be sure to update you guys in the upcoming days as to how this is looking. I'll definitely throw a picture on my Instagram, but I feel like it looks much more tidy now. You can see the fish are completely unfazed. Those are the rice fish and the longfin ancestris. And I've dropped a Sarah Onip in here to feed everybody. You can see there's some CPDs, a baby carry tetra. All in all, nobody is any worse for the wear for me having pulled apart half this aquarium, hacked back all the plants, removed a ton of moss. The moss was shading my narrow leaf Java fern over here, which was causing it to die back a bit, and I really want that area right here to fill in a bit more, so I just pushed it back into the wood. There are some Anubias flowering in here, which is always sort of fun to see. But yeah, so now it has much more of that like triangular flow that I was going for, and of course I will have to continue to trim the siamensis. It was looking real leggy and had a lot of holes in the leaves, so it really needed this, and I'm sure as well that as the Gradiola viscodula and the Starigine fill in, I'm going to have to trim those as well. But all in all, I am no longer extremely irritated with that mat of Sagittaria that was there, and I think this is going to be a really positive change for this aquarium. Let's take a look at the penjing. I wanted to show you guys as well that to the penjing here I added a ton more hair grass, as 90% of it had died off, and I think that the goal for this was to look like a hillside with a mixed foreground, and since almost all of the hair grass had died off and I came home from AE with so much of it, I decided to take a few cups of the tissue culture hair grass and replant the penjing, so that we can hopefully get a more desired result. Now again, I'm still not entirely sure if this is doing what it's supposed to. In some spots you can see really excellent new growth. The moss is doing amazing. The bonsai Ficus salicifolia are doing incredible. But this Monte Carlo, I'm just not sure. In some spots where it's quite a bit drier, it looks amazing, but in some of the more saturated points, it looks kind of sad. And I think what I'm going to end up doing is adding a little bit of fertilizer, just a teeny tiny amount to the water column to see if that doesn't perk that stuff up. I'm probably just being wildly impatient, but you guys know me. I'm impulsive. I like results. I plant to capacity. I spend the money and the effort to make things look good right off the bat, and just not super stoked with how this plant is looking. So either something's got to give, or I'm going to rip it out and put something else in there. All the critters in this tank are doing awesome sauce. I'm not sure what we'll be able to see right here. I've crammed in
a bunch of moss and other little plants around the base of these rocks, mainly for the crabs to have something. You can see there's like 4 or 5 crabs right there. For the crabs to have something to pick at. My orange-eyed blue tigers are doing awesome. There's a couple buried. I hope to see babies soon. But, you know, everything in this aquarium looks great except for the Monte Carlo. And again, this might just be me being impatient, but it doesn't have that lush look that I was hoping for. Adding all the hair grass has really helped a lot. And you can see that the moss and the grass and the Monte Carlo are starting to mix, which I think is supposed to be the desired result. But like if you look at this section, that's a solid meh, which is really frustrating to me. You know, I don't have many showpiece aquariums in my fish room. This is the nicest aquarium I've ever owned. It's an Ultimate Nature system, and it is absolutely phenomenally excellent quality. And I really want this penjing to showcase it well. So let me know down in the comments if I'm being impatient or if you think I should go for it and add some very dilute fertilizer to see if it doesn't perk it up. As always, thanks for your continued support. Make sure you subscribe with that notification bell on. Every time you guys give a like or a share, it really helps out the channel, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate it.